joined Shopify in 2020. During our onboarding, they taught us this really cool way of telling stories. I went on LinkedIn and I followed the framework to the T. And so I made this post, I went to bed. I woke up the next morning to like 300,000 impressions. If you're gonna get to a point where living life on your terms, you've been able to make money online, you've been able to go down the untraveled path and build something different, then cringe is in. You gotta just be okay being cringe. You can't retire on people's opinions. You can't pay your bills on people's opinions. You can't do anything with people's opinion. If you sell every day, you'll turn people off. If you don't sell, you'll turn your business off. It took me 5-6 years or however long to get there. It's a long time, but is it, like compared to what?
Welcome back to the Many Roads Podcast. I'm your host, Okusanya, and I'm excited today because I have with me LinkedIn legend, I guess. I have with me entrepreneur, coach. He wears many hats, but he's known as the guy on LinkedIn in a lot of our spaces, and he's known as the guy who's sort of figured out LinkedIn and is now helping other people figure out LinkedIn. So help me welcome none other than Tobi Oluwole to the Many Roads Podcast. Tobi, welcome.
Thank you, bro. I'm so pumped to be here, and I remember you starting this, so I feel honored that you're having me here.
My absolute pleasure, bro. First of all, you've been one of the names that has been on my mind since I started, because the philosophy behind the Many Roads is the idea that people have different roads they have to take towards fulfillment, and for some people it's education, for some people it's entrepreneurship, for some people maybe it's an Instagram account that leads them in a particular direction. So I wanted to, of course, highlight LinkedIn, because LinkedIn has become such a huge thing, and I guess we can start it from there. Actually, what was your journey into LinkedIn? Is it I know it's been a couple of years now, but do you remember how exactly you got started?
Yeah, I mean, it was a big mistake,
Wow.
So I had joined Shopify in 2020, and during our onboarding, they taught us this really cool way of telling stories because we needed it for the job that I was doing, which is customer success. So they taught us this really cool framework, and to me, everything is made up until I test it, So I went on LinkedIn and I followed the framework to the T, and I think maybe I had like 1,000 connections at the time that I had added manually. And so I made this post. I went to bed. I woke up the next morning to like 300,000 impressions, and just like my inbox was full, leads. I mean, it was just like popping. And immediately I was like, okay, you know, I'm not a genius, but I'm not an idiot. Like we were trying Instagram ads and Pinterest and Facebook ads, and none of those had produced this result, and I had gotten this result for free. Once is luck, right? So I did another post, and that post, I think it got like 450,000 impressions or something like that.
Yeah.
And that was when I told, back then our marketing team, I was like, we're not spending a dime for the next however long. I'm going to post every day at 10 a.m. Let's see what happens. And so it came because there was an early signal, and I immediately realized that when there are 100,000 or 200,000 or 300,000 people, you can sell 5 things, right? And so I've always played the math game. I always say your success is a math equation, and the likelihood of actually creating some sort of success is very high when there are a lot of people in the room. So my first year, I think I got 4 million impressions posting on LinkedIn.
Yeah. No, bro. I think the crazy part about all of that is the fact that you said this was not planned. You know what I mean?
Who thinks of LinkedIn? It's not even like a real thing, Like LinkedIn is where you go when you need a job.
Exactly. And Tobi, that's kind of what I actually wanted you to also talk about, is the fact that over the last, I guess I would say 5 years, LinkedIn has changed. It went from this platform that it was strictly professional, you need a job, you're trying to reach out to people, connect, network, all that stuff, to now it's become a social platform.
Yeah, I mean, LinkedIn was created in 2003 as a networking platform, right? It's also the most legitimate platform. Like it's tied to like your government ID. You can't create five LinkedIn profiles. It's also tied to your job, which is why it has the lowest amount of content on it because people are like, I can say something and get fired immediately, right?
Yeah.
And then the companies also don't like people posting because you reflect the company, right?
Okay.
And so there's this unsaid rule around LinkedIn and creating content on LinkedIn. But in 2019, when Justin Welsh and Austin Belsack and all these people started showing up, um, people then started to say, okay, maybe I can use LinkedIn and create a personal brand without having to dance or create TikToks or any of that stuff. Um, and it became more acceptable to share content on LinkedIn. Um, and so the evolution then came from the teachers, right?
Okay.
So Justin Welsh has had 50,000 students. That's 50,000 people that have wanted to create on LinkedIn, right? So every time a new teacher emerged, more content became present, right? And so eventually when I became a teacher, right, and I started to see people come through and, I ran my cohorts teaching people how to use LinkedIn. That's when I was like, okay, the platform is changing. They started to take creators a little more seriously.
Mm.
You start to see a lot more like graphics and, stories and things like that. But it's one of the simplest places to create content because it's just text and graphics, right? There's not as much video on
Yeah.
LinkedIn. Um, and it's also very high intent. Again, the only people that spend time on LinkedIn are people looking for jobs, deals, contracts, consultants, coaches. So people go there in anticipation of finding something, and
Yeah.
then there you are, you
Uh,
know. And so that's what has led to such high conversion in our business that if we did this on any other platform, we would be, someone is on Instagram or TikTok, they are in consumption and entertainment mode, right? They want to be
exactly.
entertained. But on LinkedIn, you are in education mode, right? And so just because I decided to create content on LinkedIn, for every ounce of effort I put in, I got like 10 times more back than if I had put it on Instagram or TikTok because people were already in the right headspace.
Yeah. So that speaks to like the, I guess, the emotional state, or I don't even know what to call it, of the lead coming in. Cause like you said, on Instagram, TikTok, people are just like trying to doom scroll, right? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
exactly.
But on LinkedIn, like you're there for a certain reason, which is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, on Instagram, when I'm on Instagram, I woke up at like 2 a.m. today because I'm still jet lagged from coming back.
Yeah.
So I'm just scrolling through the reels, right? I'm watching soccer highlights. Next thing, I'll see something. I, and so I'm not so if I see an ad,
Mm.
I want to skip the ad. Like I'm like, you're disturbing me from
Exactly.
watching these cat videos, right? Like,
Yeah.
show me Joga Bonito, right? So on LinkedIn, it's like you're scrolling. A lot of people scroll while they're at work, right? Um, so they're already in a mode where they're like, okay, I want to get something out of LinkedIn, right?
Yeah.
And because it's not as much of a social platform, people just take it way more serious. Like I get taken way more seriously because I have the followers I have on LinkedIn. And when we now go to Instagram, like when I started running ads on Instagram, people were so trusting because they were like, "Oh, he has a big following on LinkedIn."
LinkedIn. Yeah.
know? So it ended up translating really well.
That's great. So we've kind of described the opportunity that's in LinkedIn.
Yes.
But I know someone's probably still listening or watching this, and they're probably like, okay, great. LinkedIn is a good platform. I can use it to grow my business. I can use it to get more leads and all that stuff. But how do I get started? You know what I mean? Like, let's assume this is somebody who just has a LinkedIn profile. Let's assume they have 200 followers, and they're like, okay, so Toby is saying there's an opportunity here. How do I get started? Like, what would you say to that person?
So it really depends on the person in the sense that if they've run a business before, they can pick, okay, this is the kind of customer I want to serve. Start adding 50 of those types. So let's say you want to help CFOs streamline their workflows using AI, right? okay, let's add 50 CFOs in my city automatically or manually every day so that as I start creating content, they're the ones that see it. You can start then writing content that talks about your experience, that talks about their problems, that shares stories of how you've helped solve that. But if you've never run a business before, which is like 90% of people, then all you need to do is start by sharing your story. Tell people or share content that you wish someone had shared with you 5 years ago,
Okay.
right? So share the content of how you got your first job and what you learned and how you got your first raise and your first promotion and the lessons you learned from your favorite boss and the lessons you learned from your worst boss and the time you got laid off and the time you got fired and the time you got promoted and the second promotion and the one story you heard from a friend of someone that got laid off after 10 years and then comment on things that are happening in the world right now too, right? So there's Tesla, laying off people. You can comment on it. There's Google. It was Microsoft firing the head of AI. Because of AI, right? Like comment on it, right? So if you stay within the news cycle where people are talking, then you become a thought leader.
Yeah.
Well, what is thought leadership? Is when there's a thought that's happening collectively, you're leading people to it, right? Like you are leading people to your own thought within what is already happening, right? And so the most important thing is that you're consistent, right? So you share content not once a year or once a week or once a month, but you share content once a day at the same time because every platform works the same. They want to show your content to people that is going to keep them on the platform. They want readers to stay on the platform. So if you create content and you're consistent and someone likes your post, then they're going to go to your profile and read
Exactly.
more content. So that's why consistency gets rewarded on these platforms because they know that, okay, you've been creating for a while. If they go to your profile, they can stay even longer.
Yeah.
But those are the real pillars, consistency. And then you want to start telling the story, like your own personal story. Give yourself advice from 5 years ago, 3 years ago, and then comment on things that are happening in the world right now. Because I made my COO do this. She had never posted on LinkedIn, and I made her do this. Day 10 of doing it, she gets picked up by LinkedIn News.
Wow.
Like, oh, look at this lady's thought on this, topic. And just
Yeah.
like that, day 10, 100,000 impressions from scratch.
That's crazy. Now, Toby, someone might be thinking, okay, this sounds all too well and good, and I can possibly do this, but it's cringe to create content on LinkedIn because you feel like your boss is watching, your manager's watching, your colleagues are watching. How would you help them get over that cringe, like that cringiness? I don't even know what it's called.
Yeah, I mean, one is, I always say to my founders and all the people I work with, like, cringe is in, like,
Yeah.
if you're gonna get to a point where living life on your terms, you've been able to make money online, you've been able to go down the untraveled path and build something different, then cringe is in. You gotta just be okay being cringe, right? Like, if you're shameless about doing this, then you're gonna receive the reward. Now, if you care about what your boss thinks and what your company thinks and not getting in trouble, then just play within the safe zone, right? Like when I worked at Shopify, every week almost I would do a post about how much I love Shopify, which was great for employer branding, right?
Yeah.
So they were like, "Hey, Toby, come and do a webinar for us. People love you on LinkedIn." Hey, I think I referred like 27 people into Shopify
Wow.
from my LinkedIn,
Yeah.
right? So I played within the zone that I was given back then. Um, and then I think you also need to remember that you can't retire on people's opinions. You can't pay your bills on people's opinions. You can't do anything with people's opinions,
Yeah.
right? If your criticism is the cost of going after something that you want to go after, it's the cost of creating your own freedom, right? I had a mentor that used to say criticism is the cost of getting praise. So if you're going
Wow.
to create your own way of life and share your own story, build a personal brand, become a one of one, right? Remember that only 1% of people create content on LinkedIn, right? So
Wow.
you can stand out just by showing up. The content doesn't even have to be good. You can just stand out by showing up, and then you have less competition. It opens up your entire life. Like I've gotten opportunities that I don't think I would ever be able to get just because I started posting once a day. Like it's that's not, you know, I always say that's not real work, you know. Uh like just showing up 8 lines, 8 to 12 lines once a day.
Yeah.
I think you can absolutely open up the doors of LinkedIn.
Hey there. I had to interrupt the podcast episode to tell you about the Clarity 7 Communication Guide. This guide is for you if you've ever struggled with your communication, if you've struggled with passing a message across, being clear and concise in your communication, or if you just struggle with confidence in communicating, this guide is for you. I'm not an expert, I'm not a communication guru. I'm just a guy who's found some steps that work and just wants to share that with his community. So if you need some help with your communication, this guide is for you. It's free. Get it in the description below. It's in the description of the podcast. Wherever you're watching or listening, get it and improve your communication today. Rooting for you always. Let's get back to the pod. No, Toby, this is solid. And I like it because it's practical as well, because we're kind of giving everyone like the play by play. Now, I guess let's take it to the next step, right? So they've started posting, they're posting their stories, they're sharing like life advice, kind of they're sharing their experiences, I guess, and kind of extracting like the golden nuggets out of that. Now, let's say this person has a business. How do they find a way to start? I don't want to say plug in the business. You know what I mean? Because you want to, the goal is to make sales. The goal is to find clients, to get customers without coming off as salesy, right? So how would you advise them to kind of go about that?
I always say like if you sell every day, you'll turn people off.
Okay.
If you don't sell, you'll turn your business off, right? At some point, you have to look at LinkedIn like a bank account, which is every day you make content and you don't ask for anything, you're
Yep.
making a deposit into your audience, into the goodwill of the audience, right? Into the trust, the credibility that you have. The whole point of having a bank account is that you can withdraw the money when you need it, right?
Exactly.
So twice a week, once a week, you should be asking for people to join your newsletter or book a call with you or download one of your lead magnets. One of the best ways to drive leads, we just had someone in our program. She came in and, she had landed an interview at Google. She has a career coaching program. And I was like, give away your Google resume, like the one that helped you land the interview. You got 1,000 leads in 2 weeks
What? That's crazy.
because 1,000 people wanted to see it. So
Yeah.
the best way to actually drive your business is to be a giver, right? Like give things away that are valuable, that are low cost. What does it cost her to put her? It's not. She doesn't work at Google, so it
Exactly.
doesn't matter if people see it and use it as a template. But giving starts the receiving process. The more that we have given in our business, the more free webinars, lead magnets, trainings that I've done, the bigger our business has grown, right? Because giving starts the receiving process, right? People want to talk about it. When I used to give away job boards, right? And I would manually go and find 50 jobs that were hiring, find the hiring manager within my network, put it on a list and give it away, right? Of course, people talked about it. They shared it. I remember that one post got 2 million impressions because people were like, this is so helpful.
Yeah.
So that was a big deposit. That's like depositing 100 grand
In
into
in the yeah.
yeah. So then when I go and say, okay, I'm taking, 5 people into our cohort and I make 100 grand, it's because I already had the goodwill in there to withdraw.
Yeah. Toby, this is great because there's also a theme that I'm seeing that cuts across everything that you're talking about. It's almost this idea of service, where it's like you're looking at it as I'm serving people in the sense of I'm serving it's content, but I'm actually offering value. I'm serving value, and then based off of the value I'm serving, occasionally I make an ask.
Well, for me, when I started, I remember thinking, okay, if one person is impacted by my content today, I've done my job. Because
Okay.
if you were in the middle of an event and one person was talking to you, You wouldn't be like, oh, I was expecting 1,000, like, no, you
Yeah.
would talk to them. You would add value to them. But more importantly is when you are a giver, you have the ability to create opportunities because all you're doing is sowing seeds in all sorts of soil. Some soil is fertile, some soil is not. Some posts do well, some posts don't. Some topics, but I have a core identity, which is I'm a seed sower. So
Mm,
when I reap a harvest, it's not because I was good or great. It's because I sowed, right? And so if you keep giving out content and you keep telling the stories and your lessons and you're depositing and depositing into your audience, when it's time to collect, when it's time to build your business, when it's time to make money, people already know that you are here for the right reasons. You're not just
mm,
here to, take money and run away with it, right? There's so much trust when people come talk to my team that I don't even have to close half of our deals. They can talk to anybody on our team and they're like, no, I trust Toby because I followed him for so long. Right. And that's the
yeah.
number one, when we do our kickoffs, people always go, I always ask them, why did you join? And they always go, 80% of each cohort. Well, I followed Toby for a while. I've used all his free
Mm,
stuff. I've attended the webinars. One guy came in last cohort. He's like, well, I joined one of Toby's webinars in October. By December, I had a client paying me 10,000 and I already had 13,000 followers. So I was like, if that's what I did with the free stuff, what am I going to do with the paid stuff?
yeah.
Right. So that then it also builds your confidence in what you're doing because I have an inherent fear of being seen as like a scammer or salesperson. Like I never want to come across as that because I used to do network marketing back in the day, and that's all
Mm,
I did. I was just there to, oh, you need internet, you need home phone, and like, oh, sell to your family, sell to your friends.
yeah.
Like we couldn't even have a normal conversation. Before I'm trying to recruit someone to come and sell home phone with me, right? So
Yeah.
I think that messed me up to the point where I give so much that what I get back is a fraction of what I've given, right?
Yeah.
So it's a better way to live though because there's no pressure. If someone says, "Oh, you know what, Toby,
Exactly.
I can't afford this, so it's not the right time for me," I go, "No problem. When it is the right time, we'll
Mm,
be here,
yeah.
right?" And I don't need to get them across the line because when you operate out of a place of scarcity as an entrepreneur, everyone can sell, everyone can sense it, right? But when you operate out of a place of abundance, everyone wants to be a part of it. Right? People want to be a part of someone or something that doesn't need them, right? And
Yeah.
so you you can create that by being a giver.
So this is a really balanced approach. I like it because no, I'm telling you, because I kind of struggle with the same thing where it's like I never want to come off as like I'm taking advantage of people, but
Yeah,
by giving so much value, like it just tips the scales the other way. You know what I mean?
yeah, and it tips it in your favor.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, Toby, the question that I've heard a lot of people also ask is, you know, um, do I quit my 9 to 5 to do this? To just like run my business off of LinkedIn, or do I keep both? Because you just talked about how if you're desperate, people can sense it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Um, So I would say like everyone has different risk tolerance, but I'm a very risk averse entrepreneur and I have responsibility, right? I had my little brother, I'm married, I have my parents, who I help support. So I can't just do certain things, right? Now, if those things were not like if I was single, making money and I had no mortgage, uh, I could have maybe quit earlier. Does that
Mhm.
make sense?
Yeah.
So your level of responsibility also determines your level of risk. So for me, staying in a job, 2020, I think I told my wife, like, okay, I want us to be able to quit our jobs and travel. So what we need to do is we need to buy a house, maybe two. We need to replace my income and your income with something that allows us to make income online.
Yeah.
And it was a very clear plan that once we got to making the same amount every month as we did from our jobs. And that happened for 6 months consecutively. And we had a house to fall back on that had equity in it, then we would be able to quit our jobs. And that plan took 3 years. So, I got at Shopify, started making money. First year on LinkedIn, I think I did 33,000. The next year, 168,000. We bought a house, moved in. The equity in the house grew, refinanced, bought a second house. And then we basically got to a point where my income from LinkedIn was $10,000 a month plus,
Okay.
right? And
Yeah.
our net income from our jobs was 9,384 or something like that.
Yeah.
So that happened for 6 consecutive months. And I was like, okay, we can quit our jobs, but we were waiting for the second house to be complete just to be sure.
Hmm.
So I told my team at work, I told my boss, I'm leaving this job in 7 months. And
Okay.
so if anyone wants a promotion, this is the time to do it. I'll give you a promotion, right? If you want to change jobs, I'll help you change jobs. But
Yeah.
me, I'm leaving corporate in the next 7 months, and people were kind of like, like, why are you so confident? I was like, I had a plan and the plan is
Mhm.
working, right? So we got to the house, it was a scary story because we almost lost both houses because the interest rates changed so much
Yeah.
that the bank asked us for like an extra 120K,
Jeez.
that we didn't have. My salary, it was more than my salary,
Yeah.
right? And so I used LinkedIn to get to how much we needed, right? Got the house like 2 days before we left corporate, rented it out, and then, we moved to France. But the year I didn't quit my job till my businesses were doing $300,000 a year, like double what my salary and my wife's was, right? Um,
Yeah.
and then I quit because I was like, actually, it's more like I quit because mathematically it was
Okay.
smarter for me to quit,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Because I could make the same money working half the time. And then I also quit because there was all these layoffs happening, and I had more trust in myself to provide for me and my family than I did in the company.
Yeah.
And that's when you will feel comfortable quitting, is when that trust switches. Like, I can provide for myself with the skills that I have, and I can do it more consistently and at a higher level than my company can, right? Or the
Yeah.
company that I worked for could. So that was the whole reason for quitting. We had an emergency fund. We had a house. I had a skill. I had a profile. I had a big network.
Mhm.
So, like, we, even if we messed up, we would just move back into the house. If we really messed up, we would have to sell the house, start over
Exactly.
with our, however much in equity that we had, right? Like, there were like seven backup plans.
I
So
like
it
that.
was fine.
But Toby, it's crazy that this took 3 years though, because someone who's probably watching you on LinkedIn is probably thinking, yeah, like this guy probably just started and out of nowhere. You know what I mean? Like just out
Yeah.
of nowhere.
It always looks like that though, So, yeah, momentum is a funny thing because when you have it, everyone goes, wow,
Mm,
and when you don't have it, everyone's disappointed in you. Like, so, I think I caught momentum. Timing was a big thing. I've been writing since I was young. Like, I used to
yeah.
carry a notepad around in high
Wow.
school and write down thoughts in my day. If you go to my Facebook 2014, you'll see me writing the same format I'm currently writing on LinkedIn,
Wow.
right? So there's also behind a lot of things that look great is tons and tons of hard work that makes it look lucky. And then it's also things that people are naturally inclined to a lot of times,
Yeah.
right? So I'm naturally inclined to writing because I've written for so long, right? Um, and so I like playing with words. I like clarifying my thoughts, and that's what I then come on LinkedIn to do. Uh, so I like when people, like, I have some uncles like, Toby, and they tell me like, I saw your post, so I feel honored that my content has been seen hundreds of millions of times. But the truth is, like, if you do anything for 5 to 10 years, people will call you great, right? If you do it consistently, not, oh, I tried and then I stopped. Like I'm on day 1,495 or something of posting consistently on LinkedIn. If you
Yeah,
do anything for 1,495 days, people will start calling you great.
that's a bet I dare anyone to take on anyone listening or watching this. I dare them to take that bet. Like, just okay. Let's even just say 3 days, like three years rather. Let's say 3 years. I'm gonna do this for 3 years every single day, and then let's.
That's the thing is like you underestimate what you can do in like 5 or 10 years. Everyone wants to do it. Like delayed gratification is a thing of the past. You want to be rich today. You want to fly private today. You want to get your Rolls Royce today, this year. And we set these super um, tight timelines that create pressure that actually deter us from the goal. I gave myself till 30 to get out of corporate. Like I remember being 27, or sorry, 25 or 24 when I got laid off for the first time. I walked into the office. They were like, okay, leave your laptops. Everybody's done. The company's bankrupt. And in that moment, I remember thinking, okay, this can't happen. I need to work for myself. And I was 24. I didn't get out of corporate till I was 28. So even though it took me 4 or 5 years, it was still worth it.
Yeah,
You know
for
what I mean?
sure.
Like, so I think you underestimate what you can do over 3, 4, 5 years. But even if it took you 4 or 5 years, I mean, I've bought back 50 years of my life. I have no boss. I have freedom of location, freedom of time, freedom of money, freedom of relationship. All right. It took me 5, 6 years or however long to get there. It's a long time, but is it, like compared to what?
Yeah, like in the grand scheme of things, it's not that much of a. It's not that long, you know.
Not that long,
Yeah,
like 1,000 days of just give, like on your 1,000th episode, like we're going to be having a different conversation. It's a
for sure.
studio. It's,
Yeah,
Barack Obama telling you about his many roads. Like it's going to
yeah.
look different because you pay the price by showing up consistently,
Mm.
right?
So I guess Toby, which is a good segue into the next question. For people who struggle with consistency and maybe like they've tried in the past but they've stopped, like they've meddled around with LinkedIn, tried posting here and there, but they're like, I can't seem to find a consistent rhythm. What is the best way for someone to get into that?
The three-step formula for like, I hate the gym, for example, but I lost 40 pounds, right? Like,
Mm,
so my three-step formula is one, how do I operate this thing or do this thing within my comfort zone? I
okay.
don't want to go outside of my comfort zone. Don't leave your comfort zone when you're starting something new because you need to be able to, like, I signed up for the closest gym, right?
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. The second thing is you need community or accountability. Do it with someone because on the day you forget, they'll remember. On the day you remember, they'll forget, right?
Yeah.
And life is about relationship. It's about you saying, "Oh, I had the viral post," and telling somebody, and them telling you, right? So, two is find connection, right? So stay within your comfort zone, find connection. The second thing is put it on your calendar, set an alarm. Like my whole first year, because I was posting manually, I had an alarm 9:45 a.m. 9:45 a.m. I knew I had to come up with something and post it in the next 15 minutes, right? Stay in your comfort zone. You want to build connection. Then you want to put it on your calendar, right? And then the last thing that you have to do is just don't quit.
Uh,
Forget the metrics. Forget everything else. The goal of your first 90 days is commitment, comfort
yeah.
zone, connection, calendar. The whole goal is commitment. Just like you would brush your teeth. I used to wake up, brush my teeth, shower, get ready, post on LinkedIn, have breakfast. Like it was just part of the day,
Uh,
right? Whether it went viral, it didn't go viral, someone saw it, I made money, I didn't make money. The commitment was the goal,
yeah.
right? And that basically changed. I mean, it changed. I say like we made our first $1 million and I was inside my comfort zone. So when people go, the best things in life are outside your
The
comfort zone.
comfort
I'm like,
zone.
but there are amazing things inside your comfort zone.
Hey, finish those ones first.
Yeah, like finish the ones because if you do it correctly and you do it long enough, and eventually it pushes you outside of your comfort zone, but
Yeah.
you now have the confidence to go outside,
Yeah,
right? Like you don't learn how to walk in the middle of a park on gravel, right? You learn how to walk in your sitting room as a
exactly.
kid, right? And then you have confidence to do it outside.
Yeah. So there's something you just touched on that I think is quite important. It's the aspect of community, right? You were talking about it from the standpoint of doing LinkedIn with someone, like an accountability partner or group or whatever.
Yeah.
But could you also speak to the importance of like engaging with the community on LinkedIn?
I mean, it's the same for everything. Like my first 6 to 12 months, I replied to every post and every comment.
Yeah.
Every comment I got, I would go in, reply, right? Sometimes I'd be fighting till 1 a.m. My wife is like, Toby, please put your phone down. I'm like, no, you
Mm.
should see what this person said. Let me actually answer them. I was fighting with university presidents. I'm fighting with CEOs. I'm responding. And by engaging, people were like, okay, this is a real person with real thoughts and real emotions and real, opinions, right?
Yeah.
But the other thing is, for the algorithm, it goes, this is someone that's a user,
Okay.
not just a watcher, right?
Mm.
Not just a consumer. So I think engaging with your community, I used to do LinkedIn lives for no reason. I'd be in a grocery store
Yeah.
or driving, put my AirPods in and be talking to, I remember I did one in 2023. I had 1,600 people.
That's
I'm
crazy.
driving and I'm talking to people. They're coming on. Toby, what do I do in this case? My boss hates me. I'm giving them advice. Toby, what do I
Mm.
do? And I literally just like built friends and built relationships with people by going, okay, here's me putting myself out there and let's just connect, right? Like
Yeah.
if you make connection the goal, then currency becomes the byproduct,
Okay.
right? Because anytime you build real tangible connections, like my first job in Canada was the guy I used to play soccer with all the time. And we were just walking to like McDonald's or something. I was like, man, I really need a job this summer. I'm going to try to figure it out. He's like, oh, I know someone that works at this place. Tell him I sent you. And that's how I got my first job.
Wow.
So if you don't make the currency the goal, you make connection the goal, right? You make community the goal. The byproduct is you get to some sort of currency, right? And so I think now we have it backwards where everyone's trying to make money and everyone's trying to, it's like just go meet, you start 5 connections every week and give them something, offer a free review of something, offer to refer their friends to something, right? Like
Yeah.
if you do that enough, you will start to collect, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's really how people should look at it.
Yeah. Toby, it's I think it's also a little bit frustrating because some people take this thing you just said, but they do it on the flip side of like they connect with you. Like, okay, personal example, I had a guy connect with me, and he's like the big guy in the world of project management on LinkedIn, and he's connecting with me, and he's like, "Hey, Oba, yeah, I was reviewing your profile, saw some of your LinkedIn posts. This is great. Would it be okay if I did a review of your profile to just give you 3 pieces of advice that I feel like could help you get to the next level?" I was like, "Oh, stranger just offers me free help for sure." And I was like, yeah, go ahead. He doesn't respond until like 3 days later. And then 3 days later, Toby, he's like, yeah, so fix your headline, put this in there, move this over here. And I was like, bro, what effrontery and audacity do you have to message me and tell me it's like coming into my house and rearranging my furniture? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
But to make it worse, then he goes, by the way, I help PMs who want to earn about $300,000 to find a job. Is this something you'd be interested in? Right there and then I'm like, bro, like I'm lost.
Yeah. I think that's giving to receive,
Exactly.
and we call that a transaction, right? Like if I go to a store and I give the cashier money, we can't call it generosity,
No, it's not.
right? It's like, no, I'm expecting my change and I'm expecting my groceries. Generosity is giving to give. and that's it's something that comes from within. It's like I give so often that it looks like I'm losing, right? And because I'm always giving, on any given day, I will get given an opportunity. But it goes back to the Bible. I mean, one of the core Bible verses that is like underlying all of my businesses is freely you were given, so freely give,
Exactly.
right? And so because it doesn't say, freely you were given, so be expect to take. It says freely you were given, so freely
So
give,
give. Yeah.
right? And so you give to give.
Yeah.
And when things come back, it's because of the law of harvest. You cannot sow a million seeds and get nothing back. It's impossible,
Yeah.
right? So you kind of take away this like, oh, I didn't get anything out of it mentality. It also develops your character because you're building a habit of giving. And then it also develops your ability to be grateful for whatever you get back, right? So
Yeah.
when we hit $1 million in a year, we didn't even know.
Mm.
Legitimately, we went to check our HubSpot. I'm having dinner with my COO. I was like, oh my God, I think we hit 1 million. We're doing the math. Yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
what? But I'd just been like doing all this stuff, right? Like you give to give, right? And you get back what you get back, but you will never ever, you can't plant a seed, 1,000 seeds, and you get back 1,000 seeds. You get back a tree and fruit and shade and a forest and wood for a house. And I mean, it's so abundant when you build your life that way,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so that's really what you need to do to be able to go like, yeah, like when I gave away my Shopify resume, I remember 3 people copied my resume, copied, put it in, their own content,
Yeah.
same template, same everything, and got the jobs at Shopify. Didn't pay me anything. But, so I was like, amazing, like, but then when I said, oh, I'm running a training to help people get jobs, people were like, the guy that helped people for free is doing a
Doing the
pay. Okay,
training.
I have to come. You know what I mean? Because we
Yeah.
gave to give,
Yeah.
or we gave to give for no reason, really.
Mm. And it's also kind of this natural progression where it's not like the first encounter you had with me was a sale. You know what I mean?
Yes.
People are more receptive to that, I find.
Yeah, because once you know that you're trying to get sold, your guard goes up. Because people love to buy, but they hate to be sold, right? One feels like an option, my choice. The other one feels like coercing, right?
Exactly.
But like when I go and, when we get a new apartment and I go and buy a TV, the TV guy could be the worst salesperson in the world. I'm here to buy, right?
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people try to get people, like you're trying to sell someone on something. So my guard is up because one of our biggest fears when it comes to money is losing money and getting scammed.
Mhm.
So we don't want to, be sold. So even when I do webinars, 500 people, whatever it is, I always tell people like, some of you can figure this out on your own. We don't need to work together. If you've been here the whole time, like, I hope you take what you have and run with it. But if you want to move any faster, I'm going to walk you through how we do that, right? Because I don't need to sell you on something. If you want to buy, yeah,
Yeah.
we, you know, great, you know, but either one is great. So people, when you do something, whether it's a lead magnet or whatever, give to give, right? If people can't help you or, they can't be a customer, how you respond in that determines if they will ever become a customer,
True. Yeah.
right? So it's like, I think there's a stat like 3% of people are ready to buy when they see your stuff. That means 97% of people are not there yet. And you need to play the long game. So we play, Naval talks about playing long-term games with long-term people. There
Yeah.
are people that are in my current cohort of founders that have been following me and taking my webinars since 2022.
Oh, wow. Yikes.
We're in 2025. It took them 3 years to get ready. And I was still here with open arms.
Yeah.
You got to play long-term games.
Yeah. Long term game. I like it. Toby, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up this next, I guess, section of questions. I know people are watching and listening, and AI is all the craze right now. AI is like everyone is
Yeah.
like AI, bro. Like I want to, automate. I want to, bro.
Yeah.
Like everyone's just throwing AI into the mix, right? So AI in terms of LinkedIn, in terms of creating content, like we're seeing. That's one thing I've noticed on the platform recently is that there's a lot of you can tell when people are using AI to generate content. Pros and cons. What do you think? How can anyone optimize their content using AI? Should they be using AI at all? Like, what do you think? What are your thoughts?
One is AI is really cool in the sense that it makes people that don't have this particular skill have the ability to like do things they wouldn't normally be able to do, right? So like people are creating content on LinkedIn because maybe they're not strong writers or they're not able that's actually pretty cool to me that they don't have to go through what I went through of writing so much that
Yeah.
I had they just get to skip. Now the other side is you have the results or you have on surface the results, but you don't have the resolve, right? Which
Okay.
is like the skill and the repetition that it took to actually get good at writing and copy and things like that, right? So to me, AI is really great when you mix it with an established skill, right? So, yes, there's all these tools for writing content on LinkedIn, Postwise, Taplio, Say What, like, there's all these tools and you can 100% start using them and creating. But if you really start to understand the fundamentals of copy and building an emotional connection and all this stuff, and you're using AI, now you can really you can move faster than anyone else. So how I use AI is I write my own content and then I use AI to enhance the
Okay.
content or to produce more content faster, right?
Okay.
Um, um, so if you're going to create content, if you're going to create content and you're going to use LinkedIn that way, use AI, but understand how the skill works and creating copy and all that. Now, on the other side, if you're going to use it to like build businesses and things like that, it's actually a massive cheat code,
For sure.
like because all you have to do is like find a niche that needs something to be solved, and then you can create lead magnets with AI. You can create the actual program with AI or whatever it is. It's a cheat code because when we used to create programs back in 2020, 2021, it used to take us like 8 weeks of like brainstorming and then creating examples, talking to customers. Now we can 6 minutes. I give my students an AI tool. You upload your resume, you paste your LinkedIn, and it says, okay, based on your background, this is the best offer that you can offer that has the most credibility. This is how much you can charge based on where you are. This is who you should be targeting and their top 5 pain points. This is the 2 webinars you should run. This is the 3 lead magnets you should run. Like,
Yeah.
it used to take me 8 weeks, you know? So I do think that there's a difference that is so tangible right now. It's going to create so many millionaires. Like we're doubling our company every 6 months now
Huh.
because of
Wow.
the fact that we can do so much more because of AI, right? So now it's like, okay, what's going to happen next? I don't know. Like, I think more people are going to create. I think the really unique stories and people are going to stand out, right?
Exactly.
So the more AI content I see, the deeper I go into personal content,
Okay.
right?
Nice.
Because I want it to be obvious that I'm not using AI. I'm telling my authentic story, which makes people go, I trust him more, but also, oh, that's different. Now, authenticity, Naval says, escape competition by embracing authenticity.
Authenticity.
There
Yeah.
is no competition for you, right? So there's no competition for Toby. Like I create content how I create content. I write all of my content till today by myself. What do I use AI for? If I'm writing a newsletter or if I'm writing some follow-up emails after a webinar, or even if I'm crafting a webinar, I know the fundamentals. I've done hundreds of webinars. I know how to structure it. I know how to structure a landing page with AI. I know what a landing page should look like, what to base it off. And so when I go teach my students, I can give them my example of a perfect webinar that generated 6 figures for us. And instead of them now taking 6 months like I did to learn, we use Claude or ChatGPT, go, okay, can you use this webinar as a guide or a template and do it for and create a webinar copy for this unique group of people or this ideal customer profile? And then can you create post webinar follow-ups and can you create ad copy? Like it's
Yeah,
such a cheat code, right?
exactly.
But I understand the fundamentals, right? And so I think you plus AI is the real winner. AI on its own, I think it's going to be a threat to a lot of menial jobs that people didn't even necessarily want initially. Like, you know, I've never personally met someone that works at a call center that loves their call center job,
Mm. Yeah,
right? So
facts.
I think AI is going to replace a lot of jobs like that. And if you really want to be able to get ahead of what's happening or, you know, coming, then it's just your unique ability plus AI. Now you will be able to at least navigate these next 10 years.
Yeah, I understand why people are concerned, but like you said, the benefits are incredible. Like,
Yeah.
this past week I was talking to a friend and we had an idea. And we were just like, yeah, we're just gonna put as a prompt in Replit. I don't know if you know Replit.
Yeah.
Bro. And in like 5 minutes, I had a UI designed. I had a prototype, a working prototype. And I was like, bro, this is dumb.
Yeah.
Like, bro, what
It's
do you mean? Like,
incredible.
what do you mean I can go from idea to prototype in 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Like, like
There's never been a time like that or like this in history.
yeah, but goes to your point where it's like in this time is that authenticity of like real stories that's really gonna shine through, you know. So
Yeah.
that's great. So I guess the consensus is don't let AI replace you. Use AI. Optimize your work using AI.
Is using AI, especially for things like a personal brand, like, you know, let people know who you are, be more personal. But then when it comes to like building businesses, cheat code, just use it like you just said, like, you know, when we brainstorm on an idea, I'm launching it in 24 hours. You know, like we
Yeah,
don't need to do the thing. And so that in itself is a cheat code. So yeah, I mean, it's awesome to see the progress of it. I'm a little scared of what the effects of it will be because I think it's like 500,000 people have been laid off this year alone.
yeah.
So I'm worried, you know. So I would just say to everyone, like, just learn how to use it. Just learn how to use it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay, now Toby, quickly, you hinted at something. This idea of being able to launch ideas in like 24 hours, and but it got me thinking about how I've seen quite a bit of your posts, quite a number of your posts rather, that talked about how like you did this idea, it failed, and then you went to this idea, it failed, and then you. So this
yeah.
concept of failing forward, right? Can you talk about how can you talk about your relationship with, I don't want to even say relationship, but how you handle failure in the world of entrepreneurship? Because you have stories to tell about like I tried this, it didn't work.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up with two entrepreneur parents, right? Like new businesses every year, regardless of how well or how bad the last one went. So one is uh, failure is the tuition you pay for success. Like
Yeah.
you're just, you know, you if you went to school to learn you know, to become a doctor, you would pay tuition,
Yeah.
right? So all the money I lost in my clothing lines and all that stuff is just tuition to learn something new and a new chapter. I learned how not to raise money. I learned how not to source. I learned what businesses not to run, right? Um, so that's one. The other thing though is fail. One of the biggest reasons why people struggle with failure is because they internalize it, right?
Okay.
And so they go, I'm a failure because I failed.
Mm.
And the truth is, you're not a failure because you failed. You're successful because you're okay with failing, right? So it's part of my day. I'm supposed to, the more I fail, the faster I fail, the better the results get, the better I get, and the faster I get to a win,
Yeah.
right? So I will launch something. I will fail and I would go, okay, what was our learnings? I'll go have a Snickers bar. If it was a big failure, I'll cry, have
Yeah,
some ice cream. I give myself 24 hours, we go again. Right. So every failure, I've never, again, if you play long-term games, it's like the market.
yeah.
It goes down. Oh my God, the world is burning. It's gone up for the last 100 years. It's going to go up,
It's rigged to
right?
stay up.
It's rigged to stay up. So if you fail, like if I'm launching something and if I want to give an idea a really good shot,
Yeah.
60 days of massive action.
Okay.
I give it everything I have for 60 days. If I get to the end of 60 days and there's no data or dollars to prove that I'm right, then we let it go. Like I did the same thing with when we were launching. I started working with athletes, right? Patrice Evra, Blaise
Yeah.
Matuidi, right? I was like, okay, let's just like give this everything. And at the end, I was like, you know what? Here's what we learned. We want to do it. We don't want to do it. This is who we want to keep working with. But
Yeah.
we had data, we had dollars. And we're like, okay, let's make a decision now. But fail, what is failure? You know when you care about failure is when you care about other people's opinions.
Okay. That's the real issue.
That's the real issue. You don't want people to look at you like, oh my God, he failed, or you don't want people to think you're a failure or to be embarrassed. Next time
Mm.
they ask you, oh, what happened to your little clothing line? And I get that because we are so impacted by the people around us. But the truth is, you can't pay your bills with people's opinions. It doesn't actually matter. You, at some point, you get to a point where you're so comfortable in yourself and you're so sure, like I am an entrepreneur. While everyone else thinks about failing, I failed 7 times this afternoon. It's just who I am. I will tell you the story. People fall in love with my story because of how much I failed. Because it wasn't like I woke up, built my first company, like, Shopify, first company, $1 billion,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? No, I failed so much that people go, man, this guy sucks. If he can do it, I can do it, right? And so one of the most common things I get is, Toby, you're so relatable. I feel like I can do it, right? And that's why I talk about all of my failures, right? So
Yeah.
people know, like, hey, you failed 8 times. Like Shopify, I applied 7 times in 3 years. I remember the third time, one of my friends sat me down, like, Toby, there's other companies, you know. I
Like,
was
what are you
like,
doing?
yeah. And I remember thinking, and I'm happy for the other companies,
Yeah.
So, I when I applied the seventh time, they were like, "We're just gonna skip you to the last round because we've seen you so many times." I got the
Yeah.
job in like 12 days, and one of my friends was like, "You applied a seventh time?" I was like, "I would have applied a 19th time. They have to let me in eventually, you know." So
Yeah.
you don't give up. It's just part of it, right? It sucks. It builds your character. It lets you also appreciate when you win.
Okay. And Toby, I have a question regarding that because if you don't internalize the failures, you can't internalize the success either.
Again, like if all life was wins, you would never be able to truly appreciate the
Yeah.
wins. I appreciate the house we have and the life we have because I remember the IKEA mattress we had on the floor, right? Like I appreciate me being able to buy my mom a car because I remember my first car having a hole in it, right? Like the the dichotomy is what makes it so beautiful, right? So you can't take one without the other. It doesn't really work that way, right? Like I have so much confidence that I can build new things because I built something after I failed so much,
Yeah.
right? So I don't like when I look at an idea, I don't go, man, what if I fail? The first thought I go is, this is probably gonna work.
Mhm. Yeah.
Right? Like I built that much, and then even if I'm wrong, I go, it's if it doesn't make me money, it's gonna teach me something, right? So I'm like, what am I gonna lose? I'm not gonna lose anything. We might as well just do it right now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So my team knows, like, I have my pace to execution now is like is insane. Like I can think of something at 9 a.m. and the prototype is out by 5.
Wow.
You know,
Yeah.
because I'm like speed, like money loves speed. Money loves speed, right? Like if you can get something out 5 days before I get something out,
Yeah.
you have 5 days to beat me before I even launch,
It's true.
right?
Yeah.
So I think that's why I love failing. I love going like, hey, I tried that, right? Because then I also get to coach so many people. Be like, listen, I'm not saying it's not gonna work, but here's what happened when I tried it.
Yeah. Essentially, it's just you get so much feedback that even if it doesn't work, it makes it worth your while. You know.
Never lost. Long term, long enough term,
Yeah.
never.
Yeah, man. All right, Toby. Last two things before we get out of here,
Yeah,
because I don't want to take up your time. Your I guess is it a slogan? Is it a statement? Like life on your own terms, life on your terms. I
yeah.
want you to talk about that, like what it really means to you, because I can tell it comes from, it kind of puts your whole story, it kind of summarizes your whole story, but I can also tell it comes from a deep place of like this is what I want for people. So can you talk about living life on your own terms?
I mean, for me, it's that we were created to live the fullest, biggest life, and we were then convinced and coerced into living these like very like, oh, you can only vacation at this time, and this is how much I'll pay you per hour, and you have to miss your kid's graduation because you need to work, and and we just kind of accepted that. But living life on your terms means, you sit down one day and go, okay, let's take away all the limitations. These are the terms I want to live my life on, right? For me, it was, I want more weekends than weekdays. I want no restriction on my location. I want to spend as much time as I want with whoever I want. I want to be able to go out to dinner and have no worries about money. I don't want to look at the price. I want to look at what I want to eat, right?
Yeah.
Like I had all these things, I want to be able to retire my parents. I have like a list of 47 reasons that I need to do well or I want to do well. So living life on your terms is going, okay, these are the terms I want to live my life on. And these are the conditions I need to create to have that. Just accepting the fact that your most God-like trait is your ability to create something from nothing. Like God spoke and there was light. You were made in that image, right? To be able to create something from nothing. So life on your terms means going, I want to spend time with my kids. I don't want to stress about work. I don't have an alarm. I sleep till whatever, I sleep till I wake up,
Mm,
right? Like I work 3 days a week. I sleep till I wake up. I work with people I like. I've never looked at a resume to hire someone. If I like you and you're competent, I'm gonna at least hire you. And if we don't get along within a month, you'll know. And within 6 months, if it doesn't work out, you're gone.
yeah.
But it's not like you know, I'm creating my own rules for my life because you are a creator. You were designed to be a creator, right? And so you're also made in the image of a creator. Think of the life you want to live. Okay, I want to be at every one of my kids' games. I want to not just have one date night with my wife every week. I want to spend every day with my wife, right? Make the terms and then create the conditions to make it possible. That's what life on your terms is. And that's why I love helping people do it because when I see someone come into my program, I had a guy, I don't want my wife to go back to work. I really want her to be present for my kids, so I want to learn how to make money online, did that and she hasn't had to go back to work. They bought their first house. By the time he went to buy his first house, he had enough money cash to be able
That's
to buy his
that's
first
crazy.
house. I
Yeah.
mean, that's life on your terms, no mortgage,
Hmm.
right?
No, that's yeah. I think that's a solid way to end the podcast, Toby.
Yeah, amazing.
Now, I guess last thing, Toby, that I wanted you to do is you have
Yeah.
yeah. Last thing, Toby, I know you have a conference coming up in Toronto, and I wanted you to kind of quickly talk about that and just to, I guess, invite people over.
Here's the thing. I have made a bet that I want to run a conference
Yeah.
and I have not committed yet if it needs to be a conference. One, because I wanted it to be a gathering,
Okay.
but there's different types of gatherings. right?
Yeah.
Like I'm doing the dinner in Toronto with 50 entrepreneurs and builders,
Yeah.
and I really want people to connect, right? I think there's conferences are there more for like instruction
Uh,
and like brand building, and you have these speakers that you like look up to,
yeah.
and I don't know if it's what I'm trying to actually do right now.
Okay.
I think I'm actually trying to build more community and let people connect with each other, right?
Uh,
So all that to say, like we'll probably still do something in September, right? I don't know if it's going to be the Recreate Summit, right?
yeah.
But I do want it to be a gathering of smart people, ambitious people that want to build life on their terms. So it might end up being a dinner. It might end up being a weekend retreat. It
Yeah.
might end up being, like a games night. Like we haven't fully decided, but I'm sure once we do, we'll announce it again and kind of take it from there.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds good, bro. I'm definitely looking forward to it. Whatever you're doing, I'm there already. Anyway. So.
No, I appreciate you always,
Yeah,
always.
man. Yeah. So, Toby, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you on. I will put links to all your, I guess, like LinkedIn and Instagram, as well
Yeah,
as your website, so people can kind of get in touch with you and see all the fun stuff you're up to. But this
awesome.
has been great. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
And thanks for having me, bro. I appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Well, there you have it, everyone. Thank you so much for watching this episode of the podcast. I'm sure you got so much value out of this, and I did, so I'm sure you did as well. And I would love to hear from you. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. If you have any questions for Toby as well, put it in the comments. I will try my best to get it over to him. He's a busy man, but we'll try. Well, till the next time, have a good one, everyone. Bye then.